watching Septum Sen versus the World. I'm Septum Sen. I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Again.
We're here to inform you about what's coming out. Now, he says again, because we tried recording this, my computer crashed, and now we're doing it double time, but we're going to get through this, and you are going to be informed. And here, come to think of it, is what's out in theaters this week. Which one you want to talk about?
Yeah. No, I am all for Incredibles 2. We have been waiting way too long for this one.
Yeah.
For some reason, Pixar saw fit to put out 3 Cars movies while we were waiting for Incredibles 2. But they finally got their priorities straight. And it does. The previews look pretty good, so I'm definitely looking forward to this. And Incredibles may not be Pixar's best, but it's always been one of my favorites that they've done. So
I'm always skeptical when it comes to sequels like this one. The first movie encapsulated the whole point.
Yeah,
but this one, it looks like they're hitting home with a point.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it will go. I have some faith in Pixar, but I do know that they can fail. Cars.
Now, I will say this. Cars 3 was as good or better than Cars 2.
Well, that's not a very good thing to say.
And there are those who swear that the Toy Story movies got better with each installment. So, Incredibles is one that was built to have sequels. That's why I don't know why it took so long.
Yeah.
Because it's the kind of, it's superhero movie. You would think there'd be sequels.
Well, they got Lego Incredibles.
Oh, yeah. I saw the preview for Lego Movie 2. That looks fun. But that's a ways from now.
So, Doctor Who is actually getting a theatrical run with Doctor Who Genesis of the Daleks. And that's going to just be a one-day only, which you've missed. Because it was the 11th.
Huh.
But, still, you never know. It might still be playing in a theater near you. It certainly isn't with us. But, hey, you get your Doctor Who on, you never know.
Yeah.
And I will let you hit the final one we're covering.
Well, yeah, I guess the other big high-profile one this week, there's a couple, theoretically. Superfly's got a wide release. I think there's 1 or 2 others. Most of them are, like, limited release,
Yeah.
John Travolta might, but if that's your cup of tea, no. But the one that looks pretty fun, that's supposedly based on a true story, is Tag. With Jeremy Renner, Ed Helms, Ela Fisher, and others, about grown men who still play a game of tag that they've played for 30 years. It looks interesting, to say the least.
Interesting.
Yes. Could be a lot of fun. We'll see.
So, well, actually, I'll have to switch over to this now because we've got him sitting here.
What happened?
What happened?
Alright, so with that being said,
Yep.
let's move on to home release. So check it out. right. Well, starting up, Criterion has some nice releases
Yeah.
in there, and the big one though is Bowling for Columbine. I mean, this has been a while coming.
Mhm.
I think this is the only Michael Moore. Roger Moore.
Yes, but Roger Moore, the famed liberal documentarian.
Michael Moore release. And here I thought I was going to do it without any problems this time. I should know. But Bowling for Columbine, certainly one of his best works as far as how well it was put together. Though pushy is what Michael Moore does, this one doesn't quite have that pushy narrative to it like the others do. It's more of it knows what it wants to do. It's well crafted. So I understand why it gets that. And it really does reflect our times currently.
Yes. And I mean, really, it is one of the highest profile documentaries.
Yes.
The other one this week is a Spanish film called El Sur, right? Which could be interesting. There's a lot of them this week. It's not a big release week, but there's a lot of interesting stuff mixed in. And one that I guess it's the representative anime, I guess we're going to do. Because there's a few I really do want to see. And I've got to talk about that one. What you took the screen down. What's the Sun one?
Oh, well.
That one I'm very interested in, but he took the screen down, so I don't remember the title. But ReZero, which actually has a much longer title, it's not actually ReZero. It's I can't give a full account because I don't remember the full title.
Well, I can
but
bring
it does
up.
look very interesting.
Rash thing. All right. So I got the title for it.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're
Okay. Okay. There we go. I see the clock ticking.
Run down the list.
Technological issues. Yes, ReZero, Starting Life Another World. That's what it was, and it's season 1, part 1, because Funimation is doing that again, as always. Not to knock Funimation, because even when they do that, they're still cheaper than some. But and this does come with a nice art box, the chipboard art box, so you can slip part 2 in. And then I did A Spirit of the Sun was the one I wanted to talk about, because it's I believe, I need to go back and double check, but I believe this is like 80s, the 2 movies from the 80s. It's supposed to be like the most ultra depressing ever, but it's supposed to be good, so, and I did love Grave of the Fireflies. And speaking of the Sun,
all right, that is the main series for ReZero.
Okay.
So it's ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. That's 25 episodes.
Okay.
So for that season, so it's probably 2 parts for that season.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, like I said, speaking of the Sun.
Oh yes, Midnight Sun, which is a nice little romantic thing. Basically, girl dies when she goes in the sun, falls in love, does her romance thing. I figure that's a good one to throw out to those of you who are looking for that romantic movie to take your date to. And
I saw that and it screamed Twilight. I could be wrong.
Even more reason.
It could be wrong. Or, speaking of good date movies, we also have Unsane, where Claire Foy plays a woman with mental issues. But it's a Steven Soderbergh film. And this guy, I used to respect the heck out of him for doing movies that were all over the map. But now I kind of wonder about him for doing movies that are all over the map. And this one, I think, is his follow-up to Logan Lucky, which was a fun movie. But it was basically redneck Ocean's 11. And it was interesting. It was fun. Not as good as Ocean's 11.
I thought you meant Pacific Rim for a moment. Was this follow-up?
Well, okay, so Pacific Rim. I own Pacific Rim. I've never seen it. I want to see it. I really do. I had planned with my brother and a friend of ours to watch it and then go see Uprising when it hit theaters. That never happened.
And it is the spiritual successor to Logan Lucky.
It could well be.
Yeah.
Well, I do know that it is a spiritual successor to pretty much any mecha and or kaiju film ever made. But Uprising is coming out this upcoming week, and I still do want to see Pacific Rim, if only Guillermo del Toro and Rinko Kikuchi. Yes, but Kikuchi does come back. Del Toro stepped back and didn't actually direct the sequel. I think he produced it. But Kikuchi is awesome. I will happily see any movie she's in. And it's a shame most of them are never available here.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, whatever. So, was there any... that was pretty much it for the releases, right?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
And
I'm curious about that... the one with the girls with guitars one, and I've already forgotten what it's called, but I'm still curious about it. Alright.
So, with that being said,
For something a little different.
that was your movie previews for the week. And, of course, let's talk about those who have passed us by. So, we've had a decent number of deaths this week. Not as many as we usually name off, but I'm trying to thin out the list so it's not overly populated with death. Seems like a rather dour thing for us to cover.
Yeah. We like to acknowledge those who moved on. We like to give shout outs, especially because a lot of times the media will focus on just a couple people.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also easy to get bogged down in it, as we've learned from our last couple of them.
Yeah, it's one thing when it's like 5 or 10. It's another one it's like 30 names.
Yeah.
And we're just, Who was, I don't know who he was. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So, what's starting with the 5th? Kate Spade, which of course is David Spade's wife. This is the Department of Corrections here. Just to let you know that that is actually David Spade's sister-in-law. Yes, not wife, sister-in-law. You may continue, but only this once. And a fashion designer of well note. She had passed, and that was due to suicide. One of 2 real tragedies at this time. She was 55, but it is really sad whenever you see someone passing of suicide, or it just tells you that there was something wrong in their life that they felt that they just wanted out. And it is a terrible thing. But we will move on.
Yep. Keeping roughly the same age bracket, unlike I think it was last week where everyone was pretty
like,
old.
Like in the 90s.
This week is not the case. We've got a couple older ones, but in the same basic age bracket, we have Ralph Santalal, who is 51, who's a guitar player in multiple bands: Iced Earth, Obituary, Decide. Can't say I'm personally familiar with his music, but
metal.
Yeah. So it's but it's always a shame, to see good musicians pass. And the next one, I did see a little something about this one, and I have been meaning to watch Sons of Anarchy. I've heard really good things about it, but I just haven't gotten to it. But Alan O'Neill, who stars in Sons of Anarchy, passed at 47. One of the younger ones of the week. And I don't recall what... I remember something about the way he died was pretty notable, but I can't remember what it was. But I don't know. But yeah, moving on.
Probably wasn't it. Well, hopefully nothing biker related.
I don't think so.
So I guess we're moving on to the 8th. We had some big ones that day. One of them, of course, passing what many would say probably, though might be before their time, it's still decent lifespan, which is Eunice Gayson. She died 90.
Yeah.
She was in films such as Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and The Revenge of Frankenstein. Or was it Frankenstein?
So think about that for a moment. James Bond, Frankenstein... there's a crossover there one of these days.
Well, hey, they're looking for ideas. Maybe the new Bond is going to be like right there, battling monsters. They'll be a part of the Dark World, like they'll join Universal, and then they'll be in that. Yes.
Oh god, that's totally inappropriate idea I just had, but whatever.
Well, they are still working on the Dark World.
Oh yeah,
That's
trying to.
trying. Well, the big one, of course, is Anthony Bourdain. I don't
Yeah.
think I have to tell you all about that. I'm sure you've heard. That one's all over everything. He
Yeah.
was found hanging,
Hmm.
which is a very sad thing.
Yeah,
He
it's
died
surprising. Yeah, just
age 61,
yeah.
filming for his show. He's
Mhm.
known, of course, for No Reservations, Parts Unknown, and The Layover. Those are the three big ones.
The Parts Unknown was the one he was working on.
Yeah,
right?
that was the one. Yeah. I think it was CNN or something like that.
I don't remember.
I can't remember which one is which. I love some of these shows, and
Mhm.
he was an interesting person, a philosopher, really, in a lot of ways. It is very sad.
Mhm.
I feel, but the one I feel saddest for, the ones that he left behind, because he left behind an 11-year-old daughter,
Mm.
and to me, it's a sad thing. I'm a little bit angry, but I don't know his circumstances.
Mhm.
But it makes you wonder what kind of thing would then have you leave that behind.
Yeah, you always, especially when you're talking about people who are nominally successful,
Yeah.
it's always very surprising when you hear about this and you're like, it's not like he had nothing going on. But on the other hand,
Well, depression doesn't own anything. And
depression is something that can hit just about anyone. And
I mean, it could be the best day of
Yeah.
your life, and if your mind
Yeah.
tells you you're depressed is the worst day of your life,
Yeah.
then it's the worst day of your life.
yeah,
But at the same
Mhm.
time, it's still very sad.
yes.
My best wishes out to that family.
Yeah. One who probably did get a pretty full life.
No, just
It's-
barely started living.
Liu Yichang, 99.
Jeez.
He's a Hong Kong novelist, an editor and publisher, who apparently is considered by many to be a founder of Hong Kong's modern literature scene.
Yep.
Which, that's an impressive thing to have under your an impressive laurel to have. And especially me being a big book nerd, I definitely appreciate that. I have not really read much Hong Kong literature, Hong Kong-based literature, but given their movie scene, I can imagine it's probably some good stuff. I'll have to check some of this out sooner or later. But okay.
So on the 10th, Danny Kerwin, 68,
Mhm.
guitarist of Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know whether that was the first one. You had said that you thought maybe somebody else in the band had also passed.
I feel like someone else has, and I'm drawing a blank on that.
You know, we're losing history here. We've got a lot of these
Yeah.
famous musicians that are passing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really sad to see that. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things. I don't know.
Okay.
So maybe not, but
Hmm.
any case, we were taking the time to do Insta research. We can answer our own questions near instantly.
Yes. All right. Hey, Mr. Larson.
Well, you've got the last one, which
Yeah.
is fresh off the presses today.
The last one is another fairly shocking one. This was a week for high-profile, relatively shocking news. Jackson Odell, an actor and musician who is known for the show The Goldbergs, among other things, 20 years old, was found dead. He was in a sober living facility. I don't know a huge amount of detail, but given that, I'm
Yeah.
thinking he probably was a relapse, unfortunately, of whatever his issue had been. And I know enough about that to know that you're talking about difficult situations and whatnot. But for that to overwhelm him at 20, that's
That's a lot
Very
to-
sad. And very young. And that was followed up almost immediately. Our focus tends to be on the media industry, but it wasn't 10 minutes later that I learned that a football player had passed at 39. And I'm like, what is it with today and young people? And it just this past week was a big, out of the blue sort of passings. Not as many in some cases, but But anyway, on to some more pleasant news.
So let's
Yes.
see here. Hey, we're finally getting back to where we were before the video corrupted.
Yes.
And
Incidentally, I guess we did have a foreshortened video last week that apparently there was some file
it got,
corruption with that, and that's unfortunate, but
well, there was some stuff we talked about that probably was too political to talk about.
might have been better if it...
Probably better if it didn't. So, we were trying to get away from that being too over the top.
Okay.
We're trying to get a good wide audience anyway.
Right.
But we did get all the deaths in, so that was the... we got the
really?
important thing. The people who died, that got in there. So let's talk about movie releases on physical media.
Yeah.
Or not just movie, just media releases.
Yeah.
Because physical media, that's what we do. That's what we're about. I think you could see 1 or 2 DVDs or Blu-rays back there.
Only a couple.
Yep.
But actually, come to think of it, the one we're going to talk about is right here.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
He's going there for it.
So, one of the big ones that I learned about the other day that I'm excited about is that one of the great anime, K-On!, is getting a re-release. Sentai has not yet put it up for pre-order. And so I had to do, he did the digging.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out where to find the info. But they are repackaging seasons 1 and 2. Originally, season 1 had been a Bandai release, and then Bandai shuttered the North American operations, and Sentai took over. They started with season 2, but they did a season 1 re-release, right? They're repackaging them both, along with the soundtrack, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And they're putting out a premium set for it. I already own both seasons, but I'm getting that set.
Was the movie included in that?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it was.
Well, we'll find out. When it gets a listing, you're going to get more details about what's
The
on
movie.
it.
The movie is awesome, but you really have to know the show.
It looks like an amp. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, it does. The whole, kind of like your Beck set, right?
Yes.
But fancier. So, K-On! Getting a re-release, that's big, for me at least. And I will have to get that. Like I said, that is going to be a shame that I already own the whole thing and I'm going to be spending all this money. The other one that I actually learned about the same day, and it's really cool because they're both music themed. One of my coworkers last summer, he and his girlfriend went. He is a very big fan, to put it mildly. Very big fan of the band Fish. And they had gone to what was called the Baker's Dozen, which was 13 consecutive nights, a show a night. Each one was themed according to a certain flavor of donut. And there was a local bakery that apparently supplied the audience with donuts. And it's like the most awesome idea for a concert series I could think of. And he told me that in 13 shows, they never repeated a single song.
Wow.
And every song fit the theme of that night's show. And it just, it sounded like a really cool idea. And whether or not you're a fan of Fish, you got to admit that's a cool setup for a show. And they are putting out 3 versions for audience consumption in November. One is a 3-disc CD collection. One is a 6 LP vinyl collection. in both of them are 13 songs from the show picked by the band, and they'll be available in limited numbers nationwide. And then from their own website, they're going to be selling a $500 complete Baker's Dozen set with remastered recordings of the entire 13-night lineup, along with artwork and all kinds of stuff and all kinds of goodies. And if you can find that picture to put up, that'd be cool. But like, it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks cool.
It's like, I want this set. I don't think I'll get it because I'm not spending $500. I like fish, but I'm not that big of a fish fan.
It's like that giant set that they've got that Sentai has.
But if you are a fish fan, this is a set to get. And even if you're a more of a passing fan, I think that 3-disc collection might be worth picking up. It looks pretty cool. So yeah, so there's a couple fun ones. And can you pause it real quick? I'm sorry.
So I guess we are going to move on to upcoming possible movies and movie news, because I think you've got the fish thing and the K-On! Stuff covered.
Quick thing though on K-On!, when you get it, you need to position it with Beck so you can have like a battle of the bands, you know?
So, upcoming releases that we have heard about, some interesting things. One thing I hadn't written down, but one that's been big in the horror community, is the Halloween trailer came out.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. It looks interesting because they're retconning a heck of a lot of it. Matter of fact, they're retconning and saying none of the rest of the movies existed except for the first two.
So is this
not Rob Zombie? This is like they're retconning it back to the original series.
Okay, so they're continuing the original series but erasing most of them.
Basically.
Interesting.
Just the stuff that nobody needs to worry about. So, back when they would say it started to go downhill. Yeah. The other things, I've heard that Legally Blonde 3 is getting a release, which is why?
Funny side note on that, I learned about this, and not a day later, Patron came in looking for Legally Blondes.
Oh, God.
I had no idea that Legally Blondes existed.
Yeah, it's the third.
I had no idea.
Third movie.
The spin-off, basically.
Yeah, terrible spin-off.
Yes, so the timing of this, though, was hilarious. I have to say, I have more hope for Legally Blonde 3 than I do for Legally Blonde.
Yeah, because the original actress is coming back to it, which is kind of cool. Then, of course, there's an Arachnophobia remake in the works.
Which I'm curious about. I actually kind of liked Arachnophobia.
So, one last bit, two more things about upcoming movie stuff. Actually, one, and then we're just going to go down stories. We'll just take them one by one.
Okay.
Which is in July, HBO is releasing a Robin Williams documentary. And I have a feeling that one will probably be up for an Academy Award. I mean, HBO gets a lot of these releases that are up for Academy Awards, and that one I think will probably do it. Especially in this time when suicide is actually very prominent.
Yeah, I was going to say the timing of that's kind of interesting.
It is. I don't think they planned it, though.
Yeah.
But we'll start then.
Is that roughly the anniversary of his death?
I don't know.
Because it was midsummer, wasn't it?
That's a good question. No, that's something for you guys to look at. July 16th is supposed to be the date.
Right.
So I guess we'll start at the top, and I'll let you start up at the top.
Okay.
And
well, you know more about this, so you should probably mention that.
Well, this is just more on the Woody Allen Me Too movement stuff. We have a number of Me Too movement news. But this one, Woody Allen finally is speaking out, which is a rare thing. Woody Allen does not speak out.
Yeah.
And he basically laid it on the table. It's like, look, I should be somebody who is a He said, I should be the poster boy for Me Too. And he's saying this because you look at my history, other than the one thing which has not been proven, nobody has come out against me. Of course, I swear he's daring people.
He might be at this point. I don't know. He might be, but
I mean,
because you're right, he never speaks out. You know.
But I mean, yeah, and that's the thing is that's what the difference is though between him and a lot of these other ones is that if he was the molester that people say he is, because even Michael Jackson, there were multiple people that came out against him towards that end. But you know, for him, it's just the one thing. Everything else, none of the female actresses, even the ones who have disowned him, who could have used that moment to say he was such a pig, he was such a terrible person to work with. Not a word. They just
People have expressed regret for having taken that job, but they haven't really attacked him personally.
Yeah.
Or at least not in terms of his professional, you know.
He's got a very good reputation with actresses and in general, which is strange there.
Right.
And since we're doing the Me Too stuff, I will go ahead and look at Demi Lovato and her prank, where she actually hired a woman of the night to go and molest her bodyguard. No, literally, he hired her to go in and grab him by the balls. And then she's surprised when the net's coming back and calling her stuff harassment. Which, you know, usually is followed by well, I can't be a harasser, I'm a woman. Which...
Just because it's rare doesn't mean it can't happen.
Because, you know, I mean, if you look at it, she's the one with the power. She's the employer of this guy. He can't really fight it back. He's not, if I recall correctly, not doing anything about it. But it's kind of wrong in a way to have that and just, you know, laugh about that. I mean, if you reversed it, and you hired a male gigolo to run in there and, you know, do I'm not going to say it because that could be political.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd be setting me up for something
But you know exactly where I'm going with that.
The idea that in this, especially in this sort of heightened sensitivity that everyone has right now, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You need to not be crossing these lines, even jokingly.
So now I'm going to end my piece of this with another positive thing for women, which is Ocean's 8. It's doing exceptionally well in the box office. Box office. It is besting Solo. Yeah. So those of you Star Wars fans who are up in arms, you can go and enjoy that. So,
I think most of the Star Wars fans that are up in arms against Solo, aren't they?
Yeah, as I say, you can just go to Ocean's 8, but then there's probably nerd rage against Ocean's 8 as well.
Oh, I have no doubt there is. But, you know, it is a good cast, a good solid cast, and it's supposedly takes place in the same universe as the other movies, right? Yeah. So I don't know how closely related they are, but I like to see it.
What's weird is I'm more excited to see that than I am Ghostbusters, and I've still got Ghostbusters sitting in my collection. It's not as much about saying an all-female thing is a hard thing for me. It's just there are certain things that bothered me about Ghostbusters, and then the rest of it was I just don't have the drive to... I've got very little time to watch movies, so it's like, do I really want to take... It's over 2 hours. I can't... That's a lot of time.
If I could take time to watch Slime City...
That's not 2 hours.
It felt like it.
80 minutes.
It felt like 2 hours. Anyway.
But there's 3 other pieces, but I figure you can actually cover those. Well, which would be this one.
I don't know anything about that.
How about that one?
Yeah, I can talk about that.
And then that you can probably talk about the Tonys, so you probably know more about that than I do.
Well, I didn't really look too closely at this, but it is notable that the Tony Awards, I guess, happened sometime this week.
Yeah.
They gave Best Play to Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is kind of cool. Yeah. I've not gotten to see it performed. I'd like to. I have read the book, and I made a point to sit and read it in one sitting, like as if I was watching a play. And it gets a lot of flack, but quite frankly, it's a pretty good little story.
I've heard it works as a play.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. And I kind of... anytime you get into time travel and alternate realities, you're setting yourself up for potential criticism. But I always kind of like the idea of seeing different versions of people. And so that is kind of a fun aspect of the story. And then, of course, you've mentioned that the band's visit got 10 awards, or is it 10 plus 1?
I think it's 10 total.
So, yeah. And it's apparently based on a movie that I still need to see. I don't really closely follow stage productions, mainly because I don't live in New York City. But it's good to at least be aware of the Tonys, because oftentimes you do get some big names there. And so that's it's always kind of fun.
And they do lead to physical releases.
Sometimes they do, yeah.
Like Cats.
Right. And then, speaking of musicals, the last living Munchkin from The Wizard of Oz, very old movie at this point. The last living Munchkin died this week.
That's actually quite impressive.
I don't remember how old he was, but he was old.
Because usually when you've got dwarfism, it does not. You do not live a long time. So that's actually very impressive.
Right. Yes, it is indeed. And it was very interesting. I heard something on NPR where they were talking. They had like a little snippet of an interview that they'd done, and it was. They were talking about it like at the time. The little people, whatever the most appropriate term for it nowadays is. They had apparently hired basically everyone in show business to be in The Wizard of Oz. Yeah. It was a major thing for them, acting-wise. And this guy had mentioned that he kind of felt that was the only thing he'd ever really be remembered for. But he actually did he had a long resume. So, and worked till late in his life, I think. But definitely, again, and actually, just overall, how many people from that movie are still alive? There's not that many.
Are there any left?
I don't know, but that's worth looking into, I guess. But that's, once again, we probably could have talked about that with the deaths, but that was almost more of a positive.
Because that happened before, really, we got into our deaths for the week, I think.
Right. Yeah. And you didn't write his name down. I feel sorry about that. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it's... Yeah. But anyway, so that's probably the main major stuff for this week, right?
Well, one more thing about Nerd Rage... Since we were talking about it earlier, is there was a rather revolting thing. I wanted to talk about in relation to The Last Jedi.
Oh, really?
Which was Kelly Marie Tran, or Marie Tran. Right. She was in that, and she got bullied online so much she had to shut down her feed. I mean, that's pretty bad that happened. I mean, and the people who did this, they're just simply assholes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not fans. Fans support a series. Fans don't tear down a series like that.
Right.
I mean, as much as I wasn't really a fan of the Ghostbusters thing, I wasn't going around on their personal accounts, which people did, and harassing them.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
And what's more, I know a lot of people were ticked off by Last Jedi. I wasn't one of them. I didn't mind it, but a lot of people were. But you can't really blame any of the actors for the film.
Yeah.
You really can't. There really weren't any very bad performances, and the story choices, for the most part, were... the higher-ups, the directors, the writers, you can't blame the actors for that, so...
See, and I don't know what her role was. That's the reason why I was asking you to look at it.
I think she's the one that played Rose, if I'm remembering correctly. So, like, one of the major central characters.
That's what I was going to say. That's the reason why I was curious, because you had actually seen the film.
Right.
I have seen as much of the film as I have Solo and Ghostbusters. And Ocean's 8.
Slacker. Jeez.
But
I've
with,
seen most of those.
but with that, just saying, internet trolls, go away.
Yes, or we will taunt you a second time.
But with that, of course, feel free to comment, trolling aside. Like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, she was the one what played, I think she's the one what played, Rose Tico, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
we will see you in the next one.
Goodbye.